All right. So I wasn't really sure about doing this one because everyone's gonna do it. Everyone's gonna look at it. But I finished it for I don't know, the probably sixth time. I think in November. And I knew going into this, based on the press information we'd received at Dread Central and the set visit invite we had gotten, that there were going to be some differences. I know the times in which the two time frames that happened in the movie, instead of being 1950s and the early mid 80s from the book, it was going to be changed to the late 80s, I think 89. And I can't remember if it was going to be in the 60s or the 70s. But looking at the trailer now, I can tell that it is definitely the 70s. So that's not a big deal because it's all right if you change the time around a little bit. The problem is there are some themes in the book regarding race and some of the events that happen to the loser's parents happen in a time that really won't match now. Like if we're talking about the Black Spot, that was Mike's father's story when he saw it, and as the form of a large bird being held up by balloons. And it won't make sense if they fit that in there. But I don't know. The Black Spot might not even be in there. There might be a lot of things. When I first saw the trailer, I thought, wow, there's a lot of changes. Just based on how things looked. And when I heard one of the characters speak, I was like, did they change that too? Because that's kind of a big deal when it comes to how it is defeated the first time. But let's take a look and we'll go through it again. So I can't remember everything, so I was watching it while I was at the gym.
There you go.
Now this kind of makes sense, because even though it's not the exact beginning of the book, actually, I'm trying to remember if it's this or if it's the tale about Adrian Mellon, when Adrian Mellon is a gay guy in Derry who gets dumped off the Kissing Bridge, and it kills him. I think that was first, and then I think it moved on to the part about Bill making the boat for Georgie. But there's Bill and Georgie. It looks perfectly fine to me. I mean, I don't really want to I don't want to go into be nitpicky. I don't know if Bill is actually sick like he was in the book, and the only reason that Georgie goes out with the paraffin paper boat is because Bill can't go with him, whatever. But let's go.
She's all ready, Captain. Thanks.
It's hard to tell here if George has his stutter, because it's important to... It's kind of important if he does or not, because I might as well just... It's going to be full of spoilers, for the book at least. I don't think that happened in the book. I just remember he couldn't keep up with it because the stream really picked up. But the way Bill's able to defeat it the first time is because... Stop right here because I know what's going to happen. Is because he overcomes his stutter in a way that he could never do before with something that his mother taught him how to say, a phrase... I'm not even gonna get into the phrase, but he's able to finally say it when he's confronting the real it in another dimension. God, it's just, the more you talk about it, the more you realize that these parts of the story would never work on film, because there's just no way to show the ritual of Chud and interlocking the tongues, even though it's a metaphor. It would not work in film. It wouldn't make sense. You have to make up your mind. Are you telling a supernatural tale, or are you going to just try to make a horror movie? That's always the problem with making Stephen King novels into movies, is you have to change so much to make them fit into a genre. All right. What I'm not liking is Pennywise is coming off terrifying and evil looking in everything you see him in. Every time you see him, he looks demented. And the purpose of his guise is to lure people in. All of his guises, with the exception of the one where he's trying to scare the kids, because in his own words, or its own words, scaring people and scaring the children is akin to salting the meat. So he has to play this game. It's the game that makes his meal taste better. That is more of a payoff for him as whatever creature he ultimately is, which is never really explained. Because if they do try to show his actual form, not the spider, but his real form, the one that is locked away in another dimension, it's I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but just having him always look creepy. That was even the problem with the Tim Curry version. Having him always look creepy never makes him believable as a threat. Because when the threat's always scary, you're like, okay, you know what to expect. But when he lures people in by looking like a cross between Bozo and Ronald McDonald, which is what it's stated in the book, children are more apt to go to him. And then he changes into whatever their innermost fear is, because that's what, I guess, gets the victim's adrenaline pumping and makes the meal better for him. But okay, whatever. So hey, there's Ben Hanscom. I'm pretty sure that's Ben. He's in the book. He's supposed to be really fat, but at least the kid kind of looks like you could root for him.
I saw something. There was this.
And there's the house on Neibolt Street, pretty much what you expect that creepy place to look like. I mean, that's something I said to Roger Barr from iMockery when he first tweeted this trailer. I was like, oh, there it goes again. I don't know what it is. That's Splitter. There's something about that Splitter. But yeah, it's a creepy looking house. It was creepy in the book. I can't remember the actual description of the house on Neibolt Street, but that looks like a house you wouldn't want to go into. And the inside of the house is even worse, because it is basically the inside is controlled by it. So it can make the space into whatever it wants. It shrinks it, it makes it look like there's infinite amount of space. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in that fight in the house on Neibolt Street. So that's pretty good. I like the way it looks. It looks like your standard creepy house that you see in movies, but it's what you're expecting.
Yeah, I saw him too.
So, actually, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about the kid that's playing Ben Hanscom not looking big enough. There, he looks like I pictured him when I read the book. Beverly, I mean, they're all wearing 70s clothes, or like late 60s clothes. So it's kind of hard to really match them up with the way they are in the book. Finn, I said this when I first learned that Finn was being cast as Ricky Tozier. You put some glasses on him, he looks like Trash Mouth. So I'm really glad they got it there. I'm unsure which one is Stan and which one is Eddie. I'm guessing the one sitting down is Eddie, and the one behind him is probably Stan, because he looks more like you expect Stan to look. Stan was really the buttoned up, didn't want to believe what was going on, and if you've read the book, you know what ultimately happens to Stan. And then you see Mike in the background. It's you have to appreciate Mike's character in the book. You actually have to watch him in action. You don't get a whole lot of him in this. You don't get a lot of Bev either. It looks like they focus more on Bill and Eddie in this one.
Connected by the sewers. That's where it lives.
Oh yeah, that is Eddie since he has his asthma inhaler. Now, in the book, it was different because they were actually looking through photo albums, but I really like what they did here because they made it even creepier. Instead of the picture just coming to life in the book, having it do that's actually pretty awesome. Now, I think that he's turning into the werewolf there. That part, I don't remember. That part, it was supposed to be blood that comes up out of Beverly's sink.
You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
You don't get enough to really justify any hate. I can tell that here's the problem with trailers. Trailers are not cut by the studio usually. So the way it's cut, it feels like it's going to be a movie full of jump scares and stuff like that instead of being a movie that slowly builds up the dread as you learn what it is and how powerful it is. And the losers have to come to grips that they might not be able to beat it because they're just kids, even though the number of kids and the way they've come together is actually divine in a sense without giving too much away. Their union is divine because it is their union as a group of friends that is a power that is on the same level as it, that can defeat it. But they don't know that until they have their original confrontation. So it's kind of, unless you're going to really, since it's going to be split up into 2 movies, I don't know if they're going to be able to build up that dread, or if they're just going to, if it's just going to be a monster movie from start to stop. Because if you only have like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it's hard to go into the details of every single character. Because you have several of these losers, and they all have their individual stories that make them all intersect and become friends, and what leads to them to what happens to them later in life when they have to reconnect. There's so many relationships that you have to build for it to make sense if they try to stick with the way it comes out in the book. So. Oh, as far as the trailer, as a horror trailer, if I were strictly writing this for Dread Central as a review of a trailer, I would say it's a good trailer. But as a fan of the book, it's leaving me a little bit worried. I mean, it doesn't look as campy as the made-for-TV movie was. Even though I liked Tim Curry as it. But it still wasn't it. It is terrifying as a character. It's so hard to talk about it because every time you say it, you're trying to make sure you're not saying it as the character and it as a thing. But I'll give it a shot. I don't have any reason not to see it. It's not like the rant that The Amazing Atheist went on. When he was attacking the film because of the director only being a music video director. Like, just because someone has only directed a few things and they're not within the genre does not mean that they cannot do it. It doesn't mean that they don't understand it. There's so little in this trailer as far as the kids and the story and how the plot progresses that we're not going to know how well it is until we actually see it. Because it's going to be impossible in a 1 to 2 minute trailer to show all the relationships with the kids and how Bowers interacts with them, and if Bowers is really as demented as he turns out to be in the book, and how far he's willing to go as he builds his hatred up towards the losers. But we'll see. I mean, I would not openly go out and bash this and say, no, don't see it. At least give it a chance. Because if another trailer comes out and it looks horrible, then I can understand maybe backing off a little bit and maybe renting it. But right now, go see it. I saw a few comments from people that had seen this trailer before that it looked like a Killjoy movie from Full Moon Studios, and it does not look like that. It doesn't bear the hallmarks of a Full Moon movie. The Full Moon movies are in a league of their own. They may not be great, but they're good fun. And this doesn't have the same tone. Pennywise might look a little bit like Killjoy, but still, we have yet to see him as a character in any of this material. We've only seen pictures of him. We haven't heard him talk. We haven't seen him take on his other disguises. You don't know. You're not going to know until you see it with this movie because there's so much going on. It's not like it's a movie where you just have a couple characters. You're like, okay, well, I know what I'm getting. No, you don't know what you're getting because there's too much to convey in this trailer. Too many characters to go into depth with to let you know if it's going to be good or not. It's just one of those movies where you're just going to actually have to end up going to see it to figure out if it's going to be good or not. So that's my take on it, and I'm sure there's going to be reaction videos out the ass because this is my first one doing it. I know plenty of other bigger YouTubers that do it, but just as someone that has read the book quite a few times and really loves that book. And in fact, I've been going through a lot of Stephen King's older stuff, his older, like, late 60s and 70s stuff. Oh, there it goes again. It went off again. That's so weird. I don't know if it's just, like, thinks it's not getting a signal anymore when it stands still. Who knows? But, yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. So, because it threw me off. So what I was talking about was I've been reading some of his older stuff, like Graveyard Shift and some of his other short stories, like Lawnmower Man and The Mangler. The stuff that kind of preludes into some of his bigger novels. They're like just like offshoot stories that have like a fleeting connection to it. But there's so many things that would just never really translate well to screen. You would have to do it verbatim, and you would have to have King on hand dictating everything to get it right. Like The Boogeyman. I've yet to see an iteration of The Boogeyman done correctly, even though it's only been done on this as like independent projects. It's so hard to get it right because the main character that you're following in The Boogeyman you don't like, because he's a really crappy person. He's a crappy father. He's a horrible person. He speaks poorly of his wife. He speaks poorly of his kids, who are all dead because of the Boogeyman. He speaks poorly of gays and blacks. And there's no reason to like him. So to follow him through like a half-hour, 1 hour short film it's difficult because he's not a likable character. What you're reading the story for is to understand what happened, not to look at him grow as a character. And the final reveal, and I'll spoil it for if you haven't read The Boogeyman, is the psychiatrist that the father is talking to turns out to be the Boogeyman, and he casts off his mask, and he has the description of the Boogeyman is very minimal. He has spade claw hands. He smells of something that has died. I think the actual description is a dead mouse in a pop can. I've never smelled that, so I don't know what that smells like. The spade claw hands. He has a scarecrow head. So I'm guessing that means it looks like a burlap bag with like empty holes for eyes and like stitched mouth. Which he can't have, because the way the Boogeyman kills one of his kids is he has it in his mouth. He's shaking it like a terrier shakes a piece of rope. Is what the book is what it is described as is in the short story. So it's just his stuff is very hard to bring to the big screen. Even even the short film that is based on gray matter has to change a lot to make the story work. Even though the story is very straightforward, and if you did it word per word, you could probably get something interesting. But in gray matter, the son of a guy who's on disability and only sits at home and drinks goes out into a blizzard to seek help because he knows his father is turning into something. And then they talk about it for a while in the bar, and then the son stays there at the bar, and I think it's 4 guys go to this guy's place and look for him. And what they discover as they're getting closer to this guy's place is that people have gone missing, and what the son said that his father is turning into like this big thing of mold, like gelatinous mold. And when he finally makes his reveal, he's splitting in 2. There's a white seam that's going down him, and 2 sets of eyes, and he's starting to split. And the bar owner stays there, and he fires off a few shots, and then the rest of them run out and run back to the bar, and one of them is thinking on the way back, going through the multiplication tables in his heads of how many times that thing would have to split into 2 separate beings before it would be doomed for the rest of the world. It's not really something you could really put on a movie and be like, there it is, boom, done, there's no real resolution. So when you see the adaptation for it, the father turns into a spider rather than a gelatinous being. So it's a little bit different. You have to make those changes to make them work. So we'll see. I mean, I wish I had taken up that offer I had to go do that set visit. Unfortunately, it came down. I think it was traveling to Vancouver. No, I don't think it was Vancouver. I think it was Montreal. It was traveling to Canada with like a week's notice. So unfortunately, it's hard to get out of work and do that traveling with that short notice. So unfortunately I couldn't go, but the pictures I saw from the set looked great. I saw the picture of the Paul Bunyan and everything that may or may not come into play in the movie. It's not a big part of it. It's just part of Ricky Tozier's encounter with it. He has a couple of them, but one of them is the Paul Bunyan statue coming to life. So we'll see. If you'd like this semi-ranting, rambling review where I went off topic one too many times, give it a like, subscribe, look at all my Stranger Things interviews, look at all my other crab game play videos and bad audio and bad dubbing, because it's hard for me to really take it seriously anymore when I don't have someone else here doing it with me, so I just kind of get off topic because I'm not really all that focused.